You want to laugh? I just got done making this video I'm going to talk about, and it was too long, so I'm just going to remake it because I don't want to go into the editing. The editing will take longer than it will take to remake this. I'm talking about the other day we had a Supreme Court decision. It was on the very last day before the Supreme Court's extremely long summer vacation. The Supreme Court ruled in Mcdonald v. Chicago that the handgun ban is unconstitutional. Now, I had no idea that there was a handgun ban in effect in Chicago. I don't live there. But it turns out for the past 28 or 30 years, there was a handgun ban in effect. That meant citizens could not legally own handguns at all, period. But obviously criminals go to the street and buy what they want. True. So this man, Mr. McDonald, he was a 76-year-old man, Army veteran, community activist. Community activists feed the homeless, community activists keep kids out of gangs, community activists do neighborhood watch, community activists bring lawsuits in favor of the people and all that other bullshit, strive for a safer society, all that other shit. A lot of them are public servants, retired public officials, shit like that. Mr. McDonald claims to own a 20-gauge shotgun for self-defense, home defense. You can't carry a shotgun on the street, I don't think. And he sued the city of Chicago, saying they were violating their constitutional right to self-defense by disallowing citizens to own handguns. And one of the key factors of the debate was an 80-year-old man. This man was a Korean War veteran. Now this man was living with his wife and his 13-year-old daughter, and the 13-year-old grandson was visiting one night. And the man heard a burglar in his house. He grabbed his handgun. He felt threatened by the burglar and he killed the burglar. Now, by definition, I did a video on burglary. By definition, more than 90% of burglars are nonviolent. They come into your house when you're not there, take your TV and sell it on the street. But if a burglar comes into your home in the middle of the night while you're asleep, there's a very good chance they'll hurt you. If a burglar comes into your house while you're wide awake like I am now, he's definitely there to hurt you. So this man felt threatened and shot the burglar. After he shot the burglar, we found out, they did an investigation I always talk about. The investigation showed that this man was more right than he could have ever comprehended. The man that he killed was a career criminal. He had several violent crimes. I don't know if they were rape, robbery, burglary, whatever. But he had several violent crimes on his record. The man had some drug violations. I think the man was a gang member. But the man was more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. And after he killed the man, they wanted to put him in prison. They didn't give a shit he killed the criminal. But they were concerned because he had a illegally owned gun. Why was the gun illegal? I don't know. Did he buy the gun on the street illegally? Did he have the handgun for 30 years before the handgun law came into effect? I couldn't tell you to save my life. And we're not going to debate it. We're not going to bash him. But that was one of Mr. McDonald's key reasons for filing his lawsuit, which went to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court rules the land. They write the laws, they do everything. In this country, we have what they call the Supremacy Clause. That means every town, city, village, state, community, county is entitled to file their own laws, regulations, pass things. They're allowed to do that. But the federal government overrules literally everything. And theoretically speaking, let's assume that a Nazi got elected governor tomorrow. Okay? And the Nazis said Judaism is now outlawed. The Jewish community can go to the Supreme Court and tell the Supreme Court, according to the First Amendment, we should be allowed to practice Judaism. And the Supreme Court would rule that the Nazi governor's law forbidding Judaism is outlawed. The law is unconstitutional, citing the First Amendment, freedom of religion. Judaism is now legal again. City of Chicago, ban on handguns, Supreme Court. According to the Second Amendment, the handgun is part of arms. Years ago, arms meant flintlock muskets, rifles, pistols, and shotguns. Nowadays, we have more sophisticated weapons, and handgun is filed under the arms word. So this unconstitutional bullshit law was overturned. finally. And the Supreme Court did a 5-4 decision on it. You had better be careful because 5 justices vote for guns, 4 vote against guns. I'd prefer if that 5-4 became a 7-2. I prefer if it was a 9-0, I might add, but just beware. And every time they talk about guns, they always talk 5 say pro-gun, 4 say anti-gun. Watch them. I hope to Christ that the Supreme Court goes after Chicago next. No, not Chicago, I'm sorry. California next. Because in my video, why I finally joined the NRA, I talk about the bullshit in California and all their ridiculous laws. Also, I hope the Supreme Court comes to communist states like New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts and overrides these stupid laws about magazine capacity and folding stocks and this. Ugh. Okay. So, now even though the Supreme Court said handguns are now legal in Chicago, politicians in Chicago, according to recent reports, are trying to circumvent the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is called the Supreme Court for a reason. It's supreme. That's where the word comes from, supreme. Okay? You can't appeal the Supreme Court. That's why it's called the Supreme Court. Yet politicians in Chicago are trying to pass laws saying no guns, no handguns. That means, like, you can't sell a handgun in Chicago. So if you live in Chicago, you have to go and buy a handgun outside the city and come into the city with the handgun. If you want to own a handgun, they may restrict you to 1 handgun. If you want to own a handgun, they may give you some heavy insurance premiums to pay. They just don't get the message. Constitutional, unconstitutional. They don't get the goddamn message. If you don't like it, move. Okay? Look, I don't like gangster rap. Okay? I just don't like gangster rap. So you know what I do? I don't listen to it. I'm not going to go into an adult's house and take away his gangster rap CD. I don't like gangster rap, therefore I don't listen to it. You don't like guns, therefore don't buy any. Is that fair? I think it is. You don't like guns, don't buy guns. Don't like guns in your home. Don't live in neighborhoods where there are gun owners. That's it. Bottom line. So, Chicago is now finally handgun legal, even though they're trying to make that illegal. One guy, I don't know who this guy was. He was a member of the Brady campaign. He said something crazy. Hold on, let me check my minutes here. This minute rule is killing me. 8 minutes. Okay. You know what? I'm going to stop this, cut it in half, and I'll get back.